you guys for sticking around. On my way up here, I passed a few folks that wanted to get a head start home, and I can understand that, but I wish I were Oprah and I could say, everybody gets a new car. So this is our final session, and this is about the future. In this session, we look to the future. The first thing you'll hear is a description of our activities around renewable energy, creating strategy for the system, and the activities that we undertook with Rocky Mountain Institute and eLab this spring. After that, you'll hear from Mike Lazat, and Mike is thinking about the future. He's thinking about your future this winter, so we won't spoil what Mike's going to be talking to us about. Next, you'll get to meet again David Elliott from Cree. I've had the opportunity to learn about some of the exciting things that they're bringing to technology and lighting, and I think it'll be a really nice look into the future. And then lastly, Roy Torbert from Rocky Mountain Institute is going to help us imagine a university and what it might be. And he's got some great real-world examples and things he's working on. So we're looking forward to you being with us and hitting cleanup. So first, Rocky Mountain Institute, eLab, renewable energy. This is about an event that a handful of people went to at Devil's Thumb Ranch. And so I just wanted to show you a picture to let you know how tough the duty was out there. Somebody had to do it. But literally while we were there, what did we have, Jack? About 10 inches of snow? Yeah. And I can tell you that the people that drive the shuttle buses to and from the airport have no fear of 10 inches of snow in a van going over a 10,000 foot pass whatsoever. So, Rocky Mountain Institute is trying to accelerate the rate of change in the electricity industry. And they brought 12 teams together this spring. And so if you look at this slide, I know it's hard to read, but there were teams from Hawaii, Minnesota, Illinois, Houston, Appalachian State, Spokane, Washington, Bloomington, Indiana, another Minnesota team, San Diego, Lafayette, which is in Colorado, Boulder, and then Arizona State. And we feel very honored that they came to the UNC system and the Appalachian Energy Summit and asked us to bring a team to this event. When we saw the caliber of the people that were on the other teams, when we met the amazing faculty that they had put together, not just their own consultants, but some of the world's leading experts around how we will transition the utility industry. And just a chance to be in a bubble for 4 days was, and be focused on this issue was really great for our team. And again, tough duty, someone had to do it. The UNC team, we were there to talk about UNC system energy future, but very specifically, we were there to talk about a renewable energy strategy and future for the UNC system. One of the things that I want to say is this came at us really quickly. Rocky Mountain Institute came to us probably with about 2 weeks before the event happened and said, we want you there. It was a very limited number of seats. You know, at first they said you can send 4 people, and then we were able to bring 6. You know, one of my regrets is that we were not able to include a student in the process. Before we went, we consulted UNC President Ross. We wanted to make sure that we didn't want to go out and create a renewable energy strategy if he wasn't ready for one. What we did in order to kind of get his buy-in, and what we realized in doing so, is what we were doing was legitimizing that UNC would have a bold renewable energy strategy. You know, we wanted people to, you know, when we said we're going to go there, we want to make sure that we knew why we were going to go there. We wanted to be able to quantify the benefits, and we wanted to make sure people didn't think we were outside of our box. And you know, it might seem obvious to us it's something we should be doing, but we wanted to make sure that we had all that documented. The other thing I'll tell you is this is a process. I mean, we were there together for 4 days. Our team has met a number of times on the phone. but we are nowhere near having, quote, a renewable energy strategy for the UNC system. This is really a process, and we're beginning the discussion, and it's going to take input from most of the people in this room. And, listening to the Student Energy Network today and being reminded of, they've gotten all of the SGA presidents from all of the campuses to sign legislation that says we want renewable energy in a big way. And so when our reason for being says go do this, it's very empowering. And so the work that you guys are doing, students, the push that you guys are giving us helps in a number of ways, and it helps procedurally, it helps us spiritually, so thanks much, and I really enjoyed your comments today. This is the team that went, and if you guys would just stand up, I think most of you are here. Jack Colby from NC State, who's their facilities officer. Jonathan Gross. Jonathan still here? Jonathan, he is a partner. He is a partner with Cone Resnick accounting firm, and he has a lot of experience in putting together large-scale deals like this. So when we're talking about how we're financing renewable energy for the UNC system, we had a pro there on our team that knew how it would go down in some regards. Myself, I was honored to be there. Mike O'Connor, the physical plant director with Appalachian State. Miriam Tripp from General Administration, who also serves as the leader of the Sustainability Alliance, which is our lingo for the collection of sustainability directors. And Miriam was a great help. Ivan Erlov, who I think has left the building. Ivan is the executive director of the North Carolina Sustainable Energy Association. And in my opinion, Ivan is the leader in terms of driving clean energy policy in the state of North Carolina. So having him on our team was not only a beneficial, but I think necessary. And then Michael Kinsley, who has been with us from day one with Rocky Mountain Institute. He was our facilitator, and more recently, Roy Torbert has worked with us, and we'll talk more about their involvement. So this was our team, and this is us on the last day. These were our goals. What type of renewable energy do we wish to create? What type of renewable energy future do we wish to create? How do we create a compelling vision? And how do we overcome barriers? So we were focused on solar, we were focused on renewable energy, and those very simply are our goals. Most of this presentation comes from an 8-page document that we put together as a summary from our activities at eLab. That paper will be emailed to each of you, so you don't have to scribble notes from this. It's most of it is lifted right from it. Why is it important that the University of North Carolina has a renewable energy strategy? I mean, if you just need to read the parts here in red, but that we exist to support the state of North Carolina. We exist to educate students. Changes will come to the utility sector, and to be good stewards of the money that we spend on energy, we have to be looking to the future. And this is really important. We believe that our activities transcend politics. Us wanting to be sustainable, us trying to sustain life, us trying to save money, us trying to work for the environment. These are things that oftentimes are mired in the political debate, but we absolutely believe these transcend politics. And when you get in a debate and somebody's saying, well, a Democrat thinks this or a Republican thinks that, I would encourage to stop the conversation and say, let's take politics out of this. Because the values that we're going for, I think, are very basic. There are two ideals that go with this kind of why is it important. The first is the role of higher education. And again, we're trying to make the case for why we're doing this and why the University of North Carolina is the perfect place to do this. Our role is to pursue curriculum and research opportunities. And by that, and in that regard, we are the ideal partner to work with industry partners and to be trying new things. This is a great place to be innovative. And so this is about us making the case of saying, look, if we need policy this or we need money that, this is the place to be experimenting. The innovations that are going to be required in the renewable energy industry are going to be trial and error to some degree. And this is the value of a university. This is the value of research. And then the second ideal is right back to our students. And they are demanding a clean energy future. They are very clear to it. They are very clear with us. And we appreciate that clarity. And our students are much more invested in in the world in 50 years than any of us are likely to be. And we look for them to help us build the energy future. So again, this is going back to our educational mission. And so what we're trying to do is make this case for not only is it a good thing to do, but why the university? Why now? And we're trying to imagine the arguments and the slowdowns that we might get, and we're trying to get in front of that. You know, from a value proposition, we think it produces lasting benefits to the UNC system. We think it produces lasting benefits to the state of North Carolina, and we think it's strategic for us. You know, being excellent in renewable energy will help us attract the best students, the best faculty, and that's what we do. But the benefits are tremendous, and we've spent a lot of time, and they're not difficult to envision. They may be difficult to measure, but we believe them to be very real. So what did we learn? And there's about 6 or 8 points here, but this is really what we came away with. I mean, in spite of what we went there to do, this is what we came away with, like, this is what we figured out. First thing that we learned without any shadow of a doubt is disruptive shifts are coming in the energy industry. They're coming. And at ELAB, you had CEOs of utility companies. You had world experts on this topic. And if we are not believing that there's going to be fundamental shifts, and with our utility companies, the way we buy power, the way we use power, everything about it will shift. And that was very clear to us on day one. Second thing we learned is the North Carolina renewable energy ecosystem is challenging. A guy from Colorado stood up and said, you know, we really have a hard time with our Utilities Commission. They won't let us do X, Y, and Z. But the things that are legal there that we can't do here would be transformational to us. And so our ecosystem, our policies, our politics, there's a lot of things that make this difficult. We have people say to us, if you can do this in North Carolina now, you can do it just about anywhere. And I think you figured out from our group, we like a challenge. Solar energy is largely undervalued as a grid asset. You know, right now we see a lot of pressure trying to push the price down. We're going to give you less and less money for that solar energy. And the reality is the research is showing that solar on the grid is a very valuable asset, especially when it's placed near where it's used. There's no line losses. I mean, there's just a lot of reasons that solar is very much undervalued. It aligns with a lot of our peaks. There's just a lot of reasons, and some really smart folks that have done a lot of research. And if you want to look up this topic, it's called The Value of Solar. Just Google value of solar. There's a lot of great writing out there, and it's going to be arming to us in the future as we kind of negotiate how much money we might get paid for renewable energy. Utility companies might say it's worth this. Certain experts are going to tell you it's worth this, and we want to be obviously going in this direction. One of our key takeaways. This will likely require external sources of funding. Pretty simple. We're not going to be able to from a capital standpoint, these are going to be major capital expenses. So from a UNC system perspective, we're going to have to be looking for external sources of funding. We'll talk about that in a moment. This is one of my favorite things, and I can't remember who said this, but I bet it was Amory. If you remember, Roy, let me know. But basically, he said, utilities must engage their innovators early. I had the opportunity to say that to Duke Energy 3 weeks ago. But we are an innovator. We seek to innovate. We are going to be an innovator. And utility companies, if they want to be ahead of the game, they don't need to be holding innovators at arm's length. They need to be embracing them. And that's honestly what we're looking for as well. We now know better what we don't know. Meeting the expertise, the experts that were assembled there told us, we don't know this, we don't know this, we don't know this. And it was very empowering. I've been working in solar a long time, and I learn all the time how much I don't know. And if for us to have large-scale strategy, large-scale financing capabilities, we're going to need to bring in some experts to help us climb these mountains. And for that, we need seed capital. So we'll talk in a minute, but we need some small amounts of capital relative to putting in lots of renewable energy to bring in the brains to help us say, okay, these are kind of policy things, these are finance things, but just, it's healthy to know what you don't know, and we came away with some of that. This is pretty basic blocking and tackling, but these are the considerations that go with a solar project. Who owns it? Is key. Sources of capital. Where do you put it? Do you sell the electricity? Do you use it? There's a lot of interesting financial things there. What's the value of a renewable energy credit? 7 or 8 years ago, they were worth 18 cents per kilowatt hour. Now they're close to worthless, and so it's a moving target. Funding mechanisms. You could use UNC capital, bond issues, state treasury. We think in the short term that's unlikely. We had a lot of people encourage us to be looking at crowdsourcing models, particularly for some of the seed capital. And if you remember what I said Monday night about what we're discovering is people's willingness to buy carbon offsets with their parking pass. And so we're not putting our hand out. What we're finding is that people want to take this journey with us. So it's not really asking for money. We're inviting people to take the journey with us. You could have a corporate partner, somebody that sees gain in working with the university system. And again, not somebody, this isn't charity, but a partner that says, I'm your partner, I'm going to make this part of my business proposition. This is one of my favorites, donors as investors. This is a disruptive thought. Some of the wealthiest people in the world went to college, and they love these colleges, and they give them their money, and flat give it to them. What if you went to someone and said, I don't want $5 million because I'm going to put your name on the science building. I want to give you a X% return on your investment, and you're going to secure the energy future of the institution you love. So we think it's an interesting source of capital and kind of flipping that model on its head and turning donors into investors. UNC foundations and endowments. There's an interesting play there. I mean, there's a movement from students that are wanting universities to think about how they invest their endowments differently. Things that make you go, traditional capital markets. I mean, large-scale solar gets financed all the time, and so those markets are there, and Jonathan Gross knows a lot about it, and that may be where we go. The utility can own it. We'll talk about that in a moment. Third-party sales, which is currently not legal in North Carolina. So third-party sales means a third party could come build solar on your roof, they own it, and then they sell you the electricity in order to finance the project. I think it's 20-some states, 28, allow third-party sales. Currently, we do not, and it would be really enabling, but it's one of those things that Ivan and others are carefully working on. Since eLab, we've been busy, but not too busy to be doing these things. Our team has met on the phone about 4 times. I'm really pleased that Rocky Mountain Institute has remained interested and engaged. Roy has come with us and had a meeting in Charlotte a couple weeks ago. We really appreciate you flying in like you did. And we continue to get signals from the Rocky Mountain folks that if we want to invest our time and energy here, that they want to take the journey with us. And so to Michael and the whole Rocky Mountain team, we really value our partnership. This work has been parked in the working group of finance, regulatory, and renewable energy. So the group that is our senior facilities officers, this is where we have parked that work. And so if you want to get involved in that work, make sure that your university has an active person in that working group. And so I'm anxious to hear what came there today. We've had a good discussion with the students from the Student Energy Network, and I look forward to more of those. An interesting thing that happened, some of you may have seen it, but Duke Renewables is building solar farms in northeast North Carolina, and they're going to wheel the power and sell it to colleges in Northern Virginia for them to be solving their carbon problem and for them to be saving money. I want to go, there's reasons why that's not legal for us. And so the irony is, a North Carolina company, North Carolina Sun, shipped out of state to do something we can't do here. And I think what's going to happen is it's just got a lot of people scratching their heads. So it's kind of this camel's nose under the tent a little bit. So I was really happy to see that, and I think it's going to be something that is a good conversation starter for us. We had a great meeting with Duke Energy, and we met some Duke Energy folks while we were at eLab, and They invited us to Charlotte. Our whole team went. And, you know, what we've learned at this point is where we each other are. You know, we didn't solve it. We understand our differences. There's work to do there. We made it clear to them that we want to partner with them. These are our values. This is where we're going. This is what our constituents want. And we're going. We want you to go with us, but we're going. President Ross published a letter in the Raleigh paper, again, you know, supporting renewable energy, and we think that was a very strong and bold leadership move by our president, who we're very proud of. And then the Appalachian Energy Summit happened, and I'm really excited to learn from our working group how far we went and the energy that happened amongst us as individuals, how far that's going to carry us. You know, and lastly, again, it's just the right thing to do. It meets our values. We serve our students. We serve the state. It advances our research mission. It promotes economic development in the state. It protects the environment. It provides positive financial results. It is, and again, you can always go back to it's the right thing to do. I got interviewed this morning, and they said, "Who inspires you?" And I remembered my mother used to always say, "There's no substitute for being right." There's no substitute for being right, and that's why I love my job, and so much of what we do, we have right on our side, and I'm glad to have you guys on my side as well. And lastly, it's just fun. It's a lot of fun, and the time is always right to do what is right. Thank you. I have some unfinished business. Would someone from Winston-Salem State come up here? I've got cookies for you. Better than that?
Here we go.
There you go.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call Mike Lozada. You want to come up here with me? It's proof.
Get everybody up there.
Okay, well, apparently this is an honorific part of the agenda where the part of the reward for being the next host is you get to come up here and say a few words and also just generally welcome you and hopefully make you feel welcome for our February meeting. So the first thing to note here is the February 12th date. I know in some sessions I've been in, people were looking for that date, so please make a note of that, or I'm sure it'll go up on the website immediately if it's not there already. Okay, just a reminder, UNC Charlotte, of what we can do in a lifetime. In 1960, when I was born, there was a barn there. And now it's a university for serving 27,000 students as a doctoral institution. So I frankly haven't heard anything at this meeting that isn't possible, probable, and doable within our some of our lifetimes, and even some of us hope to extend and have a long lifetime. So not all of that is sustainable. The farm that was there before may not have been sustainable, but we've got a shot at transforming them and working them into landscapes and making them places that do their duty to society. We have a very attractive modern campus, all fairly recently built. So, and I've already had a few people saying, oh, I'm looking forward to coming to UNC Charlotte. And I've had to disappoint them in the sense of, we aren't inviting you to the main campus. But if there is a reason you want to come to work with colleagues or do something before or after, we obviously would love to show off our campus through all of the people who are here. We are hosting this meeting at our Center City building in Uptown. So for a couple of reasons. One just having to do with the fact that it's a right-sized facility for this meeting. It's a very nice space, new space. LEED Gold as of 2013. Should be very convenient for the Uptown hotels, great restaurants. If you want to make an evening, bring your spouse, do any of that kind of thing, Uptown's great. As far as running our meeting, nice auditorium space that can hold 300. We've been told to expect somewhere around 200 but if there's popularity, perhaps it's 250 or so. Classrooms, it's primarily a classroom building, most of those 10 stories that you see there. And I also like to tell people to note, the LEED building has got the least lighting all over it. And so that's part of what you do to get that energy efficiency. So lots of classroom spaces. I just want to make everybody know that we've reserved the space for the entire work day. Usually the mid-year meeting ends officially at 3 o'clock, but I know a group that I work with, the Sustainability Alliance, is already planning to hold their meeting probably immediately afterwards and make a full work day there at Center City. So you have that option. Please let me know because it would be helpful to me to actually reserve those spaces. So the fact that I've reserved a space doesn't mean that too many groups can come in here. So please let me know if you need them and whether I've got the right number. We probably can expand that. We have enough to cover. We basically reserved classrooms for every one of your working groups during the day. But if there's something else you want to break out into subgroups or something like that, please let me know. It has a nice atrium on the bottom floor, and there's actually kind of a construction project going on in and around it, or will be. Hopefully, it'll be February, so it may not look like all that much at that point. But the newest city park is basically being built right around this building. It has a coffee shop. It has e-bike rentals, which maybe it'll be nice weather in February, and which also serves a whole network throughout the Uptown area. So basically, you should be able to bike from your hotels. And finally, parking, oddly enough, is probably easier here than on the main campus, maybe easier to arrange. And it's adjacent to the building, so we shouldn't have issues of we shouldn't have to hand out maps beyond how to get to the Uptown site. Once you're there, you're parking and you're moving into a building. There are currently 2 EV electric charging stations for EVs. I guess I'm not sure if we have a policy about doing that, but if you intend to bring an EV, maybe let me know. Maybe I can put a reserve sign on it or something like that so you can make sure you really will get charged up. And if it turns out there's more demand than that, I would love to report that at the meeting that, oh, sorry, we couldn't serve all the electric vehicles that have to come to this conference. And with that, I guess I'll just take offline. Obviously contact me. Anything that goes to Jed, I'm sure will come back over to me.
We'll send out emails.
Great, thank you.
And once again, David Evans.
meeting is on. Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, my name is David Elliott. I'm the VP of Corporate Marketing and Business Development for Cree Incorporated, Durham-based Cree Incorporated. And this afternoon, what I wanted to do is talk about lighting technologies and beyond. I wanted to give you kind of a manufacturer's perspective, an innovator's perspective of how we look at, driving adoption of technology and ultimately driving sustainability impact, sustainable and substantial sustainability impact. I'm going to start with our company mission. Sure. Is this better? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to start with our company mission. Our goal is to obsolete energy wasting lighting technology. We affectionately refer to the traditional lighting technology as gas and glass. Lighting is kind of the last bastion of the vacuum tube. It's one of the few application spaces and technologies that hasn't been subsumed by solid-state technology. And Cree, many of which the founders, their origins are in material science, solid-state science, and specifically. And we've developed over many years, over the last 2 decades, solid-state technology that's much more efficient than traditional lighting technology. And so all of our effort, every day that we walk into our office and interact with our customers and our partners, is moving towards a vision and a vision future where you don't have to use energy-wasting technologies that are toxic, that contain toxic materials, that require a lot of fairly high total cost of ownership in terms of the electricity usage as well as maintenance. And in a lot of ways, you can't put the light where you need the light or you like to maximize its utility. A little bit about our company. Cree's a global company, 15 locations, 6,000 employees, about 2,000 of which are in the Durham, North Carolina area. And we're a publicly traded company, about a little bit over $1 billion in size. And one of the reasons why we emphasize our financial strength and our U.S. origins as a company is we find that a lot of large end users of lighting, a lot of customers that we're trying to get to adopt the technology have a reluctance to do so unless they know that it's being backed and driven by a company that's financially sound and that does a lot of its manufacturing in the U.S. So that's why I wanted to emphasize that point. We have a strong track record of growth. We invest a fair amount of our profits, a significant amount of profits in continuing R&D and research and development. And as I go through the presentation and I talk about the things that we emphasize to drive adoption of the technology and ultimately energy savings, we really emphasize 2 things, technical innovation and commercial innovation. And we have to operate on both planes to be able to get substantial impact. And I think a lot of the comments that have been made throughout the summit, kind of echo that sentiment that in the end of the day, you can come up with the best widget possible, but you got to pair that, with new ways of going to market, new ways of interacting with end users to ultimately reach the full potential and the full impact of the technology. And what I would also argue is that all the key stakeholders in the ecosystem, when I say ecosystem, I'm talking about the people that own and use the technology, politicians, utilities, the manufacturers, service providers. Each group has to work from their point of view and their perspective, they have to look to disrupt and innovate how things happen today. Because you're not going to get, if you want a different result, a substantially different result than what you're getting today, you have to take fairly different approaches. And not only that, you have to be willing to try and try again till you get to something that delivers demonstrable impact. So we've been at it for 25 years or so. We have billions of LEDs sold, millions of fixtures, installed. And one of the reasons why this mission is so important to us is just the impact that it can have. This is a chart based on DOE data, and it basically highlights what would happen to electricity consumption in the U.S. If LED penetration were at a high level. So you can see as much as a 50% reduction in energy usage, energy draw for lighting by the year 2030 if most of the lighting in the U.S. was driven by LED. And the good news about that is there's 2 ways to look at this. It's a big number, and there's a lot of work to be done to get there. But the other good part about it is, it's 2014, so we have 16 years of innovation and commercial execution to get to this point at level of impact. And so from a CREE perspective, I alluded to this earlier, we're focused on driving adoption in the install base. We intend to do that. We not just intend to drive it, but we intend to lead the shift to solid-state lighting technology and lighting. We think there's no company that's better positioned to do that. And we're going to do that with technology, but we're also going to do it from a commercial perspective as well. And one of the things I wanted to highlight as well is kind of where we've come to date. And what this chart lays out is the overall LED adoption in the U.S. And this is based on the number of sockets in all building types in the U.S. And you can see that, hey, we've had, since 2010, there's been a significant increase in the use of LED lighting technology in the install base, a tenfold increase. And you should be happy about that chart because it demonstrates a lot of progress in a short period of time. But if I put that chart to scale and show you what the amount of buildings that aren't using LED technology today, that shows you how much more we have, how much further we have to go, and that we're in the top of the first inning. There's a lot more to do from an adoption standpoint. About 5% of the install base of commercial lighting is LED today. And you can look at that chart and say, even, the people don't get it, right? LEDs save 50% energy, they last a long time, they're easy to maintain and use, but that'd be the easy answer. The better way to look at it is, what does CREE as a leader need to do differently to get more people to adopt the technology in a more fundamental and profound way? That's kind of how we look at the problem. We don't blame the market or the customer if we're not getting the rate of adoption that we want. We blame ourselves, and we look and say, how can we innovate and disrupt in a way to get reach our full potential? And what I'd like to do now is talk a little bit about, give you a couple examples of what we've done from a product perspective, and I'll wrap with how we're thinking about it from some of the commercial things we're looking at from an innovation perspective as well. As I mentioned, one of our key levers is technology, and I think that's what CREE is known for, technology company in the lighting industry. This chart shows since 2007 many of the different products that we've launched as a company. And we started with the invention and development of the LED device, the LED component that's no larger than a pencil tip. And we developed systems around that to take advantage of the fact that our LED technology is the most efficient way to generate photons, the most efficient way to convert electrons into light. And with each successive generation of product, one of the things that we do is we look to reduce the cost of our product. So when we launch a new product, we look to have the cost to the end user. And so if you look at this chart, what this chart shows is over time, our successive generations of troffer product, which is the most commonly used fixture in a commercial building environments, we look to deliver to the customer a step change in price performance so that we can get shorter paybacks, which ultimately drives adoption of the technology. So that's one of the key levers that we look at is, look, how do we make the technology less expensive so that customers can get a more rapid payback and embrace the technology in a more fundamental way. The other thing that we do is we look to make technology that's highly complex, we look to make it simple. And one of the products that we just launched this year was a T8 LED lamp. And again, this is the best way for me to talk about how we think about driving adoption and innovation, actually show you examples, and then also talk to you about what we're going to do in the future. If I just came up here and talked about what we would do in the future, I'd feel like I was selling you vaporware. So I wanted to give you some more concrete examples for how we think about product innovation. But this product we did because a lot of end users push back on the total cost of retrofitting, the cost of getting an electrician in to pull out a new fixture, existing fixture, and put in a new one. So we developed a product that was easy for people to install. It was easy as replacing a linear fluorescent lamp, and didn't require an electrician to do so, but delivered all the benefits of LED, the energy savings, as well as the longevity and improved light quality. Another area, and I think a very exciting area that we're pushing on from a product standpoint is controls. So we're a semiconductor company, and so it's not just, we're a compound semiconductor company, and compound semiconductors not only convert electrons into photons, but they serve a lot of other purposes and a lot of other devices that you use in your everyday life. And so there's this opportunity for convergence of functionality and ease of use in lighting fixtures, and a real opportunity to really define what a lighting fixture does. And with our SmartCast product, a SmartCast technology rather, we looked at the controls environment, and we looked at the fact that a lot of people are not using controls in as many situations as they can because of the complexity. The complexity of the initial install, as well as maintaining the control technology over time. So we sought to solve that problem by collapsing a lot of the functionality, control functionality, right into the fixture. And it's a big deal. An LED fixture can save you 50% relative to a 3-lamp T8 linear fluorescent traditional lighting T8. But if you add controls to that, your savings can get as high as 80%, because the trough or the fixture will turn off when the room's not occupied. And if the fixture is sophisticated enough, it can also sense the ambient daylight, the light that's being contributed by the daylight, and adjust to that as well. And with our SmartCast technology and fixture, that's what we did. We came up with a technology that had it all integrated into the fixture. It's one button, you press a button, and the network of fixtures, and actually the fixtures actually talk to one another, so they have a sense for who, if whether or not the room is occupied and overall daylight. And we've had a fair amount of success with it. We've already done installs and trials in the UNC system, particularly at NC State, and it's just this is a kind of a signal of what's yet to come from a LED lighting technology standpoint and technology standpoint overall. Because you can imagine a day, from a product perspective, that your fixtures do more than just provide light. Because if you look at the ubiquity of lighting fixtures in a building, they can serve as a platform for a variety of things, whether it's technology, technical sensing, communication as a way to enhance Wi-Fi networks and other types of networks in the building. You can make the fixture interoperable with building management systems, so you can sense things like occupancy, humidity, and temperature to optimize the overall operation of the building. So there's a long and bright future for using LED technology, LED-based fixtures as a platform for more functionality and value add, with the aim of improving overall sustainability and energy efficiency. And now I'll turn a little bit to the commercial side of things, because you have to do both of those things together. You have to not only come up with great products, but you also have to come up with new ways for people to access those products, especially with LED technology. LED technology fundamentally changes the economics of owning light. Typically, lighting is a failure-driven category. The only time you think about it, or think about even buying it, is when it fails. It's short-lived, and it usually takes a fair amount of effort to change it. But as you shift to LED technology, you're talking about a durable good versus a disposable good. Something that has a 10-year lifetime, something that can save you 50% energy, has an identifiable cash flow, and also it could become a platform for creating other value. So with that shift in economics, you can finance things. You can talk about deferring upfront costs. You can talk about models that are incentive driven, and there's no reason why many of the innovations, the commercial innovations that have taken hold in areas like renewables and solar in particular and wind, they can't take hold on the efficiency side, given the value and functionality of LED technology. And so just stay tuned on that, because Cree's gonna not only look to lead from a technology perspective, but also from a commercial innovation perspective as well. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the quick examples of how we've been thinking about it. First off, there's a real life example that involves you all and the UNC system as well. Last year, Cree, a partnership with the UNC system and Johnson Controls put together a university-wide, a system-wide package for upgrade of LED lighting. And there's a couple of novel things about how that happened. It was a aggregated purchase of fixtures. It was driven out of the central office, and partnering with a large service provider in the form of JCI. And what that allowed the system to do is have the opportunity to upgrade to LED technology at a more cost-effective rate than they would if they bought it, made individual purchases of the technology. And so that's an example. I mean, it's not an especially innovative example, but it's something that we've done, right? So, and it's a great success. And Cree is looking to move forward even from there. And we have platforms such as a platform that we've been working with end users in the commercial space around called Cree Solutions, which provides a full turnkey solution to end users, and whereby they don't have any upfront investment to upgrade to the technology, and we manage the entire process for them, including the incentive administration, financing, and design work as well. And what you're going to see is more and more of an opportunity to variabilize the upfront cost or defray the upfront cost, and ultimately use that vehicle as a way to develop projects and deploy projects that are larger in scale and can deliver overall much larger impact than you can envision. And so what I would say there is just stay tuned as we push towards it. But the lighting in the future is going to be vastly different than the way we interact with lighting today. It's just not going to be about the technology changing. It's also going to be about the model, the value delivery model is going to substantially change as a result of the features and benefits and functionality that the technology enables. And in the end, what that means ultimately is we're going to drive closer to much broader overall adoption of solid-state lighting technology. And that's really it. I wanted to conclude with that, with those thoughts. And again, it's when you think about delivering actual impact in the environment, what it's ultimately going to take is the different stakeholder groups, the manufacturers, the leaders in all the different key stakeholder groups, whether it's a manufacturer or a university system or a utility or any political body. There have to be champions in each one of those areas that have a vision and envision future state that is sustainable and highly energy efficient, and is willing to try and try again, and to be disruptive, innovate, change people's mindsets, and find new ways to approach old problems, so that you can end up in getting to that envisioned state of the future. Thank you. So I'll be happy to take questions at this point. Mike?
Yeah. I just wanted to ask, if light bulb like razor blade,
Yes.
right? So it's a commodity. And it's kind of interesting you said now it's becoming a durable good.
Versus disposable good, yes.
Yeah, versus disposable good or whatever. So where do you see in 15, 20 years, 100,000 hour light bulb is going to last 20 to 30 years?
Right.
So, what are the things you're going to be? Are you going to look at like big wall panels, visual stuff? Where do you see this going?
I'm going to give you an honest answer first, and I'm going to give you a rational answer second. The honest answer is, I don't think that far. I hope you're retired by then.
Okay.
So I don't think that far ahead. But it is true. I mean, there is the way lighting works today is you're buying obsolescence. You're buying failure. So you buy a bulb, like your Edison's bulb, and the typical lifetime on an Edison bulb, a 60 watt, is 1 year. And so you're buying it, and the way the industry is structured is for you to keep buying a replacement. That's going away. With solid-state lighting technology, there are LED bulbs that save you 84% energy relative to Edison's incandescent, last 22 years. Cree, we RTR LED bulb for 10 years. and they look and like a bulb, and they do everything a bulb does. And so we even give customers a suitcase so that they can put the bulbs in when they move. Or if they want to will them to their next generation, they can do that. So I mean, all kidding aside, I mean, it's a fundamental shift. And look, by the way, our bulb, our bulb like ours you can buy for $8. Regular incandescent bulb you can buy for 50 cents. But because our bulb saves us more energy, it pays for itself in less than a year. So if you do the mental calculus, it works. I think rationally, what happens is, first off, there's a long way to go in terms of just getting people to embrace the basic benefits of the technology. So, in residential, probably 3% of households use LED bulbs today. So we got a long way to go. And my guess is that LED users are overrepresented in this room, right? And that's also something to be mindful of as we think about commercial models and getting broader followership of sustainability. You always can't look at it through your lens because people think about it very differently. People that are not sustainable, not sustainably minded, they think about it in a very dollars and cents way. But what we would do is, we're going to grow, and the industry's going to grow to get people to fundamentally adopt. And then from there's so many different threads where we can add value from the basic lighting. So we're part of Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference. Apple, their software conference. Apple later this year, as part of launching their iPhone 6, they're going to launch something called the HomeKit. And the HomeKit is going to be a neat way to interact with your home. And they need an ecosystem of manufacturers to develop products that interact with the Apple HomeKit. And the Cree LED bulb will be one of those manufacturers. And at a practical level, you'll be able to tell Siri, hey Siri, it's time to go to bed. And Siri will send a signal and turn off the lights in your home, turn on your security, close your garage door, and that's all driven by the interface of the HomeKit. My point about making that example is there's so many different ways we'll be able to add value once we get the technology embedded that I'm not too worried about the prospects for growth in the future. So, yes, sir.
David, I don't know if it's apparent to all the participants, but we have your Cree troffer lights in this building on the first, second, third floor in the transition hallways between the new edition and the previous edition. And we also have about 150 of your recessed can retrofit kits. And we've had those in place for about 8 years now.
Right.
Haven't replaced one yet. It's been fabulous.
Thanks for mentioning that. Yes, sir.
Can you share your thoughts on business model innovation and the idea of changing from volumetric product sales to a service model?
So now you're making me feel like a professor, which I'm going to preface my answer by saying I'm not. So hopefully this is informative because I live it every day. I mean, one of the fun parts about what I think we all get to do is we get to solve a problem, right? And we have this envisioned view of the future that's not here today. We might be among a few people that can actually see it. Then we have to figure out what we actually do about it to make it a reality. Then you have to have the emotional will and persistence to make it happen. And I'd say the short answer on volumetric versus service orientation is you have to. I think as long as you verbalize, you make the marginal cost of owning the product lower than what people pay today. So for instance, I mean, if I take a university, the university spends a certain amount of money on their lighting, they through energy as well as maintenance. There is an opportunity today with the advent of LED technology to reduce that spend, just from day one, and reduce the operating costs, the OpEx. I mean, and this is like a OpEx reduction 101. There's opportunity to reduce it, and by installing the technology so that on a go-forward basis, that institution is cash flow positive. And when you look to develop a service model, the trick with the service model is how can I have my ongoing payment stream be below what the cost of ownership today, total cost of ownership today, and finding that balance. And we've been able to make it work. I mean, clearly that's how a lot of the solar and wind, all these other models work. We've been able to make it work to a significant extent. Cree has in the commercial markets, whether it's retrofitting the entire cities, like the city of LA, city of Las Vegas, and we're trying to crack the code on how to do it. And on the interior side for educational institutions as well. And the volumetric piece of it, the service side is imminently solvable, but the hesitation is driven by the volumetric. So a lot of people, the industry today doesn't want to do the service side because they give up revenue on the volumetric side, because they don't. But here's the news flash: you're going to give it up anyway. It's a loser anyway. So you might as well lead the transition, and the shift, in the beginning will be gradual, but then once the market decides that, hey, the service model works, it'll be like wildfire. It'll just take off. So I hope that's an informative answer, but it's actually one of the most fun parts of what we do is sitting there and thinking about not just, hey, how do we deliver efficient lighting, but how do we reshape and reform a 100-year-old industry that, talk about inertia. I mean, people don't want it, hey, if it works, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So, but it is broken, right? Especially in the face of the new technology that's available.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Working? Yeah. Now it's on? Good. Okay. So my name is Roy Torbert with Rocky Mountain Institute. I am going to talk briefly about how we see universities changing and the changes that will have on the energy transformations we've heard a lot about from Peter and others. I am last, so after this you get, I think, to escape. I think a lot of my colleagues have had to go catch flights, which is perfect, because now I'm going to commit them to all sorts of work that they didn't want to do. So anyone who's still remaining here better hide your head. I will talk quite a bit about Arizona State University, which I've learned to call the other ASU, the small, not very well known one that's somewhere out there in the Southwest, that one, because we've been working with them for about 1.5 years now. That'll come up in a bit, but I'd like to start by talking about where I've come from, which is Boulder, Colorado. I'm going to try and give you the fastest but complete history of Boulder, Colorado that you've ever heard. With it, I hope to articulate how the community can transform itself, can shape its own development. So Boulder, in 1858, was founded primarily as a gold mining town. 3 years later, though, it was designated as the site for the University of Colorado. By far the biggest development. 100 years later, fast forward 100 years, and Boulder, Colorado has grown. In particular, it's grown further and further up towards the mountains, you see, what we call our famous flatirons. More and more houses, residential developments are pushing closer to those iconic mountains. And it was at this point, in the 60s, that Boulder said, okay, it's time to really shape this development, because otherwise we will have these mountains scarred by residential developments all over them. So it all started with runners. In Boulder, as you might imagine, runners are a very active, vocal group. They're very powerful, but they got political in the 60s. They had an ordinance passed that restricted water service to any new residential developments built above 5,750 feet in elevation, which is roughly that white line. And you don't see many houses above that white line, right? It worked. They stopped. The trend building up stopped. But other groups said, okay, if the runners did it, why not us, right? So other groups, about 3 years later, got a law passed creating open space. If you could pan this camera, you would see a big wide stripe of green undeveloped land that surrounds Boulder. It's called the Boulder Bubble sometimes, to create what we call the Socialist Republic of Boulder. You might have heard either of those terms. Yeah, somewhat flattering. That was the second of three. The last one that passed just a couple of years later, and it restricted the height of new developments. So in about 10 years, Boulder had decided we're no longer going to grow up towards the mountains. We're not going to grow out, no more sprawl. and we're not going to grow up. We're not going to go vertically. So some would argue this is a huge, it shapes this vision of Boulder that you see right there. You see the city of the University of Boulder right in the center. It certainly is a big part of our development. But those three laws were critical in shaping the Boulder that we have today. Some would say it was purely for residential house prices, which it has impacted. Others would say it was to break what's called the Boulder curse. So that quote at the top of this image is from Chief Niwa of the Arapaho tribe, who lived in the Boulder Valley before European settlers ever showed up. And he made this prediction. And Boulder's kind of lived with it for a long time. We always wondered, is this going to come true? I think many of us would argue with this beautiful green vista you see there that perhaps we have managed to avoid this Boulder curse. Or maybe not. So this is 11 months ago in Boulder. So Mother Nature always gets the last word, right? This was the worst flood we've had in almost 50 years. This flood was sadly deadly. Destroyed businesses, homes. Many folks never thought they'd need flood insurance where they were living, but they did. Scenes like this, and this is while we're just outside Boulder, are, we all know, going to become more common. Climate scientists almost unequivocally agree that in addition to a variety of other things, climate change is going to make events like this one that happened to Boulder both more frequent and more damaging. So we know, we've talked at this summit and prior years, that this is important. Well, the other question is, why should we do anything with this now? Why should communities like Boulder, or the University of Colorado based in Boulder, or ASU, or the other small unimportant ASU do anything, right? Why should we do stuff now? And we've heard from Peter and others, a big reason this is around cost. Not the far out cost of climate change, but the cost today to do something about it. Just for solar, as one example of cost, in the last 10 years, the cost to install 1 watt of solar, not the module, but to install it, has dropped in half. About $5.50 a watt. In Germany, they'll do it for half that price again, $2 and change. And we can get down to that level. So it's getting easier. Solar is one we heard just from Cree about how lighting, highly energy efficient LED lighting is getting cheaper. If you go to Home Depot, it seems like every month, right, those prices drop. And that's a good thing. When you put them together, cheaper renewables, cheaper energy efficiency, it makes net zero buildings a real feasible opportunity. This is a building in Golden, Colorado, completed a few years ago. There have been additions. It was built by NREL, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. This one is a net zero building. They would argue it was built at a 3% cost premium. 3%. It was built 18 months faster than a similar building. It's an office and laboratory building. A lot of it's quite standard. But that is a net zero building. So in a given year, it produces as much clean energy as it consumes. It's also therefore net zero carbon. They go together. So with these options becoming more and more available, we've seen universities say, okay, that should be our future. Our future should be to have buildings like this on our campus, ones that are net zero or highly energy efficient, to adopt renewable energy, like we've talked about with App State's work at eLab Accelerator. So what did Arizona State do? We started working with them because in 2006 they got pretty active. We heard this is also somewhat the Ray Anderson interface carbon approach, right? Their president, Michael Crow, said we are going to become carbon neutral by 2025. They did it very publicly, very boldly. He signed this document, released it in 2006, pretty early. That's also an aggressive timeline. So that means 100% carbon reduction by 2025. It's bold, right? Unequivocal, except anyone notice the asterisk? Someone, please? Yes. Students always be looking for little caveats like this, because they can catch you up. That asterisk specifies that by 2025, all emissions attributable to everything except transportation will be offset or brought down to zero. By 2035, everything including transportation. In any case, any way you slice it, this is a really aggressive goal. It got us involved. We created a partnership, Rocky Mountain Institute and Amoresco, a leading energy service company. And for the past year and a half, this has been pretty much all of my work, is to try and figure out what is the detailed plan to reach this 100% carbon reduction target. We've got 11 years to do it. When we signed, we had 13, so now it seems like it's getting closer and scarier, but we have a contract all the way until 2025 with ASU to try and get them to their goal. And we, in the last year and a half, have created a plan that says what are the right projects within building efficiency, renewable supply, and transportation infrastructure that get you there. And the plan that we've been finding looks a little like this. I wish I had a pointer because it helps to articulate it, but even with a lot of activity so far, Arizona State today has about a footprint of 400,000 metric tons of carbon. That's essentially the size of a small city. With growth, they expect to grow to educate more than 100,000 students. So their emissions, if nothing changes, what we call the business as usual, will grow to almost 700,000 metric tons. But there is a plan. The plan we found aggressively adopts first energy efficiency. That's that first top chunk. Energy efficiency in ASU's buildings. Then transportation efficiency, which you see is a much smaller chunk, but still important. It grows more in later years because that system takes a long time to change. And then lastly, a lot of renewable energy. We did find that you can't do this all with efficiency. There has to be renewable energy run at the end. That's a mix of solar, both on-site and off-site, wind, biomass, biogas, a few other opportunities, but solar and wind are by far the biggest chunks. Biogas really helps with the thermal needs, which are tough, because you should separate electricity and thermal. But you see some of these big slope changes. You should see that in the green chunk as well. That's when big projects come online. This isn't going to be a smooth curve. It's going to be some big project comes online and the footprint drops and then evens out for a few years and then happens again. The question then you should be asking is, this seems like a good plan, right? It is possible to reach carbon neutrality. There are the resources available. What's it cost? We did all the detailed costing. There will be numbers released in a public report soon, but the short, simple answer is it costs about the same. Doing nothing has a cost, right? If you do nothing as a university, you still pay your utility every year. So the cost of that bar is that leftmost column you see there. Almost all that blue chunk is paying the utility or operating the plants on site. The next bar is a scenario we looked at of, okay, what if Arizona State reaches carbon neutrality but doesn't pursue energy efficiency? It is a lot more expensive. That's why that bar is quite a bit higher. You still pay your utility a lot. You have to do a lot more renewable energy because you haven't made your buildings more efficient. And lastly, you have to build that red chunk are big off-site biomass plants, burning wood and other waste, which are renewable but have air emissions problems. So from some perspectives, they're less preferable when compared to solar and wind. But the last bar is the one that excites us, because it says for about the same cost as business as usual, you can get a carbon neutral campus, an entire university that is carbon neutral, paying roughly the same cost. You've saved money on energy efficiency, and in the long run, a lot of the renewable options are going to have beneficial paybacks. All these prices are done with no presumed cost of carbon, conservative energy escalation rates from EIA, others. All of our assumptions will be listed soon. But that to us is exciting, right? We know that's a pretty simple story, right? You can reach it. It is roughly cost comparable. There are hurdles, right? We all know that there are many hurdles. We've heard about them during this conference. The first one we'd like to talk about, and Peter already hinted at this in his presentation this morning, is what do you do when the sun goes away? This is data taken from a year ago. That orange line is the solar generated on ASU's main campus. The green line is what they've been requesting electricity from the utility. What happens is they have 25 megawatts of installed solar on site, the most in the country. When a cloud rolls in, it's rare for Phoenix, but it happens. A cloud rolls in, and let's say it's August, when the students have just returned, it's hot outside, all of the chilling capacity is being used. As soon as the cloud rolls in, you lose a significant, almost maybe 3/4 of your solar production. And to the utility, that's like an unexpected jump in electricity demand. So every year in August, Arizona State sets its demand peak, which is a multi-million-dollar problem. So the budding entrepreneurs out there, you should pay attention to this, because this is not yet solved. Arizona State faces it every summer. Someone who can find a way to either predict the clouds rolling in and then turn off some critical loads would save them millions. And every other university that's going to adopt as much solar as Arizona State is going to face this problem sometime. That's one hurdle. We've seen another in transportation. So we know in the long run, as electricity grids become cleaner, electric vehicles will be key to a clean transportation system. But today, many folks, when you poll them, you survey them, they say, I wouldn't do it because of range anxiety, right? I'm not sure I can get to all my errands. We looked at the data for Arizona State, and all but 3% of their faculty and staff live within a range where they can comfortably drive to work, do some errands, pick up the kids, pick up the groceries, and get back, either with minimal charging at the university or with no charging at all. Only 3% live far enough away that they can't do that. So the question then becomes, who's going to create the model that allows them to go drive to the Grand Canyon over the weekend and still be able to use an electric vehicle to get to and from campus, 90% plus of their trips? So those barriers and others in the coming 11 years, Rocky Mountain Institute is going to work with Arizona State to overcome, to make their carbon reduction goals a reality. Even though it's been a big project, behind our work in China, it is our largest, it is still somewhat of a pilot. We think of this as testing a lot of things. We're going to test some more with other universities, and then we're going to start scaling. We're going to do this in what we call our Innovators Working Group. That's the second phase of our work within universities. With that group, we intend to take the lessons learned from universities that don't always have to be big, like Arizona State, but the universities who are really pushing on their carbon reduction goals, and then start sharing it to everyone else, all the other universities. This is where I think a lot of folks here in this room would love to start engaging in, because this requires a big, all hands on deck effort. So we, like a lot of the partners you've heard here, we have to set our own big audacious goals. The reason we focused on universities instead of some other sector is they are a surprisingly large amount of US emissions. That number surprises, the 5%. We also see them as potentially huge in catalyzing change in the energy industry. First of all, because they are innovation center by definition. Research, student ideas, this is where they all emerge. And secondly, because we know that if you educate the next generation of leaders of government and business and nonprofits like RMI, you will be able to transform. It might take a generation, but that's how you can make the long-term transformation. So involving all the students in our processes like we have at Arizona State will be critical. So I'd like to end with this quote. We've used it to somewhat shape a lot of our efforts. We do think that in times transformation are necessary. You have to envision a brand new system. I would, on the behalf of the entire RMI team, like to thank Jed and his team for putting on a wonderful summit, and in particular, all the participants. Thank you so much. Your enthusiasm, your ideas, the fact that you're coming here and asking these questions and digging deep in these issues, it makes us excited and passionate about the work we're doing. So thank you all. So I think I have a couple minutes for questions. We are at the end of the day, so maybe not.
No questions.
I just have a little 20-minute presentation to finish up today, so thanks a lot. Really, we just wanted to stop and thank you all for being here, but really for being present and being engaged. I hope that you all got a little booster shot of passion that you can take back to your places of work and start some actions that'll make a difference. It's been a great time to meet everybody, to talk about ideas, and I hope we can come back and do it. Be safe as you drive off the mountain and go and do your good work. Thanks so much.